My name is Era, and I'm the host of the Tamil Creator Podcast. I chat with creators from all over the world to share their stories and discuss hot topics in a way that I hope inspires, educates, and entertains you. I've been working really hard to deliver amazing guests and great content to you. But before we get into this week's episode, I just need your help with two things. Number one, hit that subscribe or follow button on whatever platform you're listening to this podcast on so that you're one of the first to get notified when new episodes drop in the future. Number two, go to thetamilcreator.com to take a 2-minute quiz that will tell you what kind of creator you are. I would love to hear what results you get. Your support means more than you'll ever know. Thank you. Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of the Tamil Creator. Today I have an awesome guest. Well, I always have awesome guests, but today I have another one. Her name is Jenushika Jeyakumaran, and she is a co-founder of a company called Aleri, and they are doing some really cool and interesting things in terms of the tech space in the law industry. And I was kind of like, wow, like nobody really thinks about innovation in the law space, but her product's pretty cool. Look forward to kind of sharing her story, more about her product, kind of founding story, etc. So I'll let Jenushika kind of introduce herself. So Jenushika, why don't you tell us a bit about yourself, including your upbringing and your family, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, thanks so much, Ara, for having me. I'm really excited to be here. This is like my first podcast, so it's a really cool experience for me.
That's awesome.
So a little bit about me. I'm a new graduate. I studied communication and business with a minor in human resources management at the University of Waterloo. And I actually graduated last year. So right when the pandemic started, April 2020. And that's when I started kind of pursuing Aleri full time. I actually started the company with my business partner a year before. And until then, it was kind of like a side hustle. But then when COVID happened, I felt like it was an opportunity for me to just kind of try this thing full-fledged. And we've been kind of a year and a half in the running. We're a fairly new company, but we're kind of growing our base. We're primarily in the United States right now, but we also have customers in Canada and Australia.
I think I mentioned to you before the podcast, I really want to share a story because I think it's such a great one in the sense that there are more female founders in tech, but I feel like especially in the Tamil community, I don't know that many. So if there's any of you out there, please reach out to me. But I thought your story was awesome. I liked what you're doing just because similar to like what I'm doing in healthcare, in like the retirement home space, which is like another unsexy space where we're trying to innovate and make change. I was really fascinated about what you're doing. So, and two other things. I'm really jealous of your setup right now with your headphones and your microphone. I have the podcast, but she's got a better equipment than me. Why don't we kind of go into the company? So how did you even come up with this idea? It's like, I feel like it's such a, you'd have to have like very deep knowledge or like something happened to kind of get into the space. So yeah.
Yeah. So the funny thing is, I've always felt that I've had an entrepreneurial spirit, but this particular venture kind of found me. Like I didn't actually go pursuing it. So it all started when I met David, and David and I were just co-op students at my last co-op at RBC. And we both worked on the same team. We jived really well. And before that, we had kind of talked about maybe pursuing something together, some kind of joint company, but we didn't know what it was. And then we came up with the idea because his dad is actually a lawyer and he's a software developer. And for me, I'm I love all things communication. And so we each had kind of different skill sets. And the idea came because his dad kind of told us about how cross-examination, preparing for it is just so difficult. Like, I don't know if you remember, but in grade school, when teachers had like those huge notepads, yeah, that's what he was using to write his notes on, just so he can put it on the wall and see it all together. And so he kind of brought that problem to David. David decided that he would develop it. And during that time, I was in my fourth and final year of university. So I was doing school and then learning about marketing part time and then kind of putting together the website. And it all just kind of came together almost by itself. And when the opportunity presented itself, I'm like, okay, this is great. We have a problem. I have a software developer on board. We have a subject matter expert, which is his father. And I wanted to kind of exploit the opportunity to, create a company.
Why didn't you, I know you did co-op and like you did different co-op like terms, but why didn't you decide to kind of say work for like a bigger tech company like a Facebook or one of those, or like even a startup to kind of get some experience, or like get paid to kind of learn how to run a startup or be part of a startup before doing your own?
Yeah, I mean, that's a that's a good question. I think my parents are kind of disappointed that I didn't go back to RBC
Hmm.
because they were really happy when I was there. And I kind of thought I would go back to, honestly, I just thought like I would go back to RBC because I did almost 2 years of co-op experience like there. Four of my five co-ops were at RBC and one was at TD. And it was a really good experience. But I think the thing that changed my mind was I started watching like YouTube videos on dropshipping, Amazon FBA, like just doing side hustles. And it gave me the notion that I don't have to trade hours for money. And I got excited by the idea that my income didn't have to be capped by the amount of time that I worked. And that changed everything for me. And then I started listening to like content creators like Gary V, and it just really inspired me. I mean, there's something really interesting and really thrilling about starting your own company and then actually seeing people buy it and like genuinely want it. And I think for me, it just like I love like starting it. I love the whole process. Like I don't pay myself right now, and I don't mind because I just think it's really exciting, and I think it's something that I kind of want to prove to myself, I guess.
Yeah, it's really interesting that you kind of came to this notion of like understanding that money is almost kind of like a capture of unit of time, like in the sense
Yeah.
that like you get paid to do a job, but like people don't realize money is actually a store value of time. And it's so cool that like I really wish there was like resources or like the thinking people have now, because like I only got into this concept like maybe 7 8 maybe 9 years ago, and it's just a really cool and like refreshing to kind of see that you kind of get it, or at least I know it's like a different way of thinking. But with your friends and family, do they get when you say something like that, like when you describe like your
No.
why, like are they just like why don't you just work at RBC, get a nice paycheck and
Yeah.
okay.
Honestly, even up until this day, my dad tells me like, "Why don't you just work at RBC? Like, why don't you just do something like that?" Um, and I hear that stuff all the time, and I don't know. I just like kind of learned to just like tune it out. Like, there's a bunch of noise you're going to hear. Actually, you talked about this in one of your articles in TC about raising two kids, and how it's similar to having your own company. Like, you just have to pick and choose what you want to listen to and have an overwhelming kind of belief in yourself.
Don't you I mean, it's easier said than done, because I think people give advice to people like this all the time, but most people don't actually follow it. Like, how do you actually like practically tune out people, especially if they're like people that are in your family, like your parents or like, your close friends? Like, what do you do?
Yeah. I don't know. Like for me, I mean, I just do like okay, so my mom is actually really, really supportive, and so are my siblings. So I guess that helps. So it's only really one person in my family. Um, but I guess like, and my boyfriend's really supportive, and I I look to people like you, and I look to people like within the Tamil community that I know, and like influencers like Gary V. And I'm just like, I guess I'm just like so inspired. I just feed myself with that energy, and I choose not to. I turn off that part of my brain to listen to other people. I know it's so much easier said than done, but it just kind of like mind over matter, I guess.
No, I admire that. I think it's cool to talk to other people, not to say that I've like mastered it. I just like it's you're always learning how to do it better and better. But it's really cool to talk to somebody else that kind of gets that. Kind of going to your product, like your Aleri, talking about like when you got your first customer and like how exciting that was because I remember that
Mhm.
as well. Um, so when you first started the company, how did you position the like company? If you were talking to like a prospective customer or just somebody, how do you describe the company in like two sentences or whatever it is?
Our value proposition was pretty lame. It was something like we streamline cross-examination. It was
Mm,
super vague. No one understood it. I had a lot of like, I was using that value proposition too when I was cold calling people. So I had a lot of pushback. So I think now I learned how to, like the biggest thing, and Y Combinator tells you this all the time. When we did apply for Y Combinator, they said that you have to be crystal clear, like don't use marketing jargon. And so right now, we just describe it as cross examination, like preparing for it is abstract. There's no clear cut method. So what we've done is we've boiled down best practices from like the past 100 years. And we've learned about the process so detailed and extreme so that we can boil it down into just 6 clear cut steps. Each step is a page in our digital workbook that you would just fill out. And by the time you reach the 6th and final step, you would have done all the groundwork necessary to create questions.
interesting. And how did you go about like I guess there's a couple of things there. One is you mentioned cold calling, like
Mhm.
like who are I mean I guess it would be lawyers that are purchasing this, but like who do you actually call to be a customer? Is it like the legal companies or like were you calling individual lawyers to kind of get them on board or just learn about how they responded to your product?
Yeah. So, what we basically did is we would look up like lawyer associations and we'd get like the directory and just cold call everyone on that list. So that's a mix of individual lawyers and entire law firms. So sometimes if we were lucky, we would actually get the lawyer on the phone, but a lot of the times we'd get the receptionist and then we'd have to kind of convince them to let us talk to the lawyer. So it would be both.
And like how did you so like what kind of things did you do? Like say the receptionist didn't let you through, or did you try emailing or like what other like things did you try to do?
Yeah. So, um, if the receptionist didn't let us through, then I would try and connect with that person on their social media. So, LinkedIn or Twitter or even Instagram. Um, but sometimes what I would try is I would send the lawyer an email and then I would just be like, hey, can I speak? Can I speak to this person? And I'd make it sound really casual, like I already knew them. And then they'd be like, okay, well, do you know them? And I'd be like, yeah, they should know who I am. And then you just have to sound like super confident. And then they'll be like, okay. Um, it's pretty difficult sometimes to get through them. It really depends on who. But I feel that if you're in control of the conversation and you sound really confident, then it's easier to get through.
Nope, it's true. Like everything you said just kind of gave me flashbacks. So, like even today, when I made a couple, like when I was making some cold calls, and like if you look up somebody and you say their full name, I feel like it feels very like you said, it's small little things
Yeah.
kind of change the conversation. Like I think I called somebody and their like full name was John Scotland, and I said, "Hey, can I speak to John? He's expecting my call." And they're like, "Oh yeah, sure." And then like he'd be like, "Who are you?" And he'd be like upset as a receptionist for letting them kind of like let me through. So just by
Yeah.
kind of like doing a small tweaking conversation, I had a pretty good result. So it's pretty interesting to hear that. Um, so going into like you're making all these cold calls, you're trying all these things, and you're getting some kind of success. So now you're having actual conversation with prospective customers. How did you convert these prospective customers into actual clients that are paying? Or I guess did you start by having paid plans or unpaid plans at the beginning?
So what we did is we just had the free trial and then we would convert them from there.
Okay, got it. Uh,
Yeah. So I guess what we did is initially our first 10 clients were all from cold calling. So I cold called 1,400 people. I didn't
wow.
talk to 1,400, but I cold called 1,400. And that was extremely exhausting. But that's how we got our first 10 clients. And so basically what we do is we just set up Zoom calls with them and um, we give them like a pitch and a product walkthrough. And then from there, some of them would convert, but usually it takes about 6 or 7 touch points. So we would just kind of keep the conversation going, nurture them through emails, nurture them through LinkedIn. Even one of the customers, I cold called them last year and we actually only got them right now. So it was like a year later. Sometimes they just need time to think about it. I think that's unusual. It really shouldn't take 1 year. But yeah, that was primarily how we did it. Just Zoom, email, like as many touch points as you can possibly do.
And after the first 10, did you stop doing like cold calls, or like did you try other, like what other things did you do beyond that to get your next group of customers?
Yeah, so after the cold calling, after I called 1,400 people, honestly, I took like a mental health break. Yeah, for like 2 weeks, I'm like, I'm not doing that. But at the same time, I felt really confident because I feel like if you can do that, like, you can do anything. Um, but after that, so there was a big legal tech conference from a company called Clio. And so we joined the legal tech conference and we networked in their like breakout rooms with people from there. And what I actually did was they had a lot of periods where their video would just buffer. So there would be like, there's 4,000 people at that event. And whenever it buffered, I dropped our link to Aleri. And so quite a few people saw it from there. So then after that event and breakout rooms, we got 5 more customers from that event. And then after that, we do a lot of like LinkedIn outreach and Facebook advertising. So right now we're just starting like the whole like digital marketing side of it, like Facebook ads, SEO, Google ads, things like that. So it's really only the beginning of that, but those are the different methods we've used so far.
And I would tell people, I mean, I think maybe you would agree or not agree based on your experience, but I really hated cold calling when I first started. I did cold calling jobs when I was younger too, and I didn't like, it was like making 100 calls a day, and like 95% of the people would yell at you or like hang up on you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so, but the thing I did learn was like if you're able to build up like kind of that emotional layer of like callous, like basically when people say no or yell at you and like you're not phased by it, you're at a great point because now you can start to have real conversations and kind of, learn how to break through like people that are typically hard to break through. Did you kind of find that as well when you made these 1,400 calls? Like, were you doing like a dedicated day of like 50 to 100 calls a day, or like how were you doing it?
Yeah, so basically I would do like 75 calls a day. Sometimes though, if I got like a lot of Zoom bookings, then I would be really excited. I'd be like on a high from that. So I'd be
Mm.
like, okay, let me just do 5 or 10 more calls. Um, but yeah, it's exactly what you said. You just kind of have to not care about people yelling at you and like develop like a thicker layer of skin. Although it's interesting because in the moment, I didn't really care. Like I learned not to care, but then afterwards I felt really, really drained. Like after I
Mm.
was done, like I took a 2 week break from work
Yeah,
altogether.
crazy.
Yeah.
Um, and so you got these paying clients and you get them through like you have a trial, and then I guess at the end of this trial they can either convert or not convert.
Hmm.
Um, what did you do? Like, I mean, if they converted, great. Two things. So how did you keep people that were customers? Because that's hard to do, especially with kind of a product like this, which I assume is like monthly subscription.
Yeah.
And then what did you do for people that dropped off after the trial? Like, I'm just curious as well. Maybe, yeah.
Yeah. So what we did was we tried to get a hold of them and essentially ask them why they dropped off. For some people, it was just like they didn't have trials. That's kind of a problem that we experience. So people will be hesitant because they'll be like, oh, well, I don't have any trials coming up, so I don't want to pay for it this month. For other people, it was like they wanted to see some features that they felt were really important to the software. So we made note of that and we developed those features. And I think for some people, it's just like they didn't know how to use the software. And that was a problem initially because we didn't have our help center resources. We didn't have like a walkthrough demo. And that's why we were doing so many Zoom calls because I would personally walk them through it and they would have to retain that information. So those are all things that we did. And whenever people do churn, I mean, the only thing that you can really do is find out why, and then try and like still communicate with them, because you still have their information, so you can still communicate them on email and like on social media. But to keep people happy, I think the most important thing you can do is be as hands-on as possible. So as soon as we get people on free trial, we call them or we try and get a hold of them. And we just want to show them that like we will give them like 100% of our attention during those sessions and be super hands-on. So day 1 of the free trial we call, and day 7 of the free trial we call. Throughout the week we send them emails, and yeah, I think just having like that personal touch really helps.
Or do you have any competitors in this particular space? And like, are they like upstarts like you guys, or are they like established like big old school kind of players?
Um, so we don't have any like direct competitors, because I think there are competitors who do things that will help you prepare for your trial. Like Clio will help you, you can store documents on it. There's another company that has like a timeline feature, so you can create a timeline of events, but there's no one who does exactly what we do. Um, so that's kind of, we have the benefit of a first mover's advantage in the market, but we do, I mean, the thing is the competitors that do exist, even though they're not like directly what we do, they are established and they have been around for a while. So that's kind of, I guess, like that's a problem, I guess. But I guess what we're doing is we're talking to people who are legal tech innovators, the people who are the technology enthusiasts. So we're kind of approaching it from that angle.
Got it. Okay. So I see that, like, I think I checked out your LinkedIn today and I saw that Aleri now had like 12 team members, which is amazing. So it seems like you guys are growing. Like, how did you kind of go about growing the team? Like, where did you find these people? Or like, I guess, building your team, like, where did you find these folks?
Yeah. So the software developers on our team, some of them are actually within our network, just people that we personally know. And then other people are just, so do you know Lighthouse Labs?
Yes, I've heard of them. Yes.
Yeah, so it's a software development boot camp. So they actually offer like a really great program where they help you onboard interns. So we've onboarded interns from them and then converted them into full-time employees. And then right now we have a few designers on board, and they're from a program called Springboard. So they're actually pro bono, and it's a really great resource for startups to tap into, because they're free and they're really eager too, because they're trying to get UX UI experience. So really kind of our employees have been from boot camps, which are great because sometimes they're pro bono, sometimes they're not, but they might be subsidized or offer credits in that way. And then the other one is just from our personal network.
Okay. And I know that obviously you're at a stage where you're generating revenue for the company and you applied to Y Combinator. So you're getting to probably like an inflection point where you kind of have to decide the next step. So have you and your co-founder, have you guys decided to like continue to bootstrap for a while, or like are you guys thinking of potentially maybe down the line, maybe looking at raising money? And what kind of decision making goes into that process to decide which step you take?
I think we'd love to kind of raise. Right now, we've been bootstrapping. We got a $30,000 grant from the government, which is a good start. But we'd love to raise a lot more. That's definitely the dream. The next steps, I think, for that, I think we have a little bit more work to do. I think we have to get like more customers, show that we have a stronger MRR, and then maybe we can approach those conversations. But I mean, we're always talking to investors, because people don't invest right away. Like, they want to have those conversations with you even like a year in advance. So we're always open to those conversations. But number one step is we just have to get more clients.
And why particularly are you looking to raise money versus say just bootstrap just through sales?
Yeah, I mean, I think that we want to raise because if you raise like a million or a couple million, you just have so much money to like, we could just expand our team, go full-fledged into our marketing. I just feel like, I mean, that's a route too. I just feel like you have so much more resources all instantly. You can just kind of go full-fledged, but we're
Which is
open
a,
to both. Yeah, open
got
to
it.
both.
I was going to just play devil's advocate because I wouldn't say I'm very anti raising money, because I think, especially with the product you have, where you have a first mover advantage, and you do have money to kind of, build on that momentum and make sense. Um, I guess, I feel like when you raise money, it's like you're marrying that investor. It's like
That's true.
the money kind of 2 million definitely, or like millions of dollars can last a long time. But if you don't figure out what you're supposed to figure out to get to that next milestone, it's like you've just, I'll just use the word marriage, but you've married this investor or investors, and you're stuck with them now for good or bad. So that's kind of
Yeah.
what I always think about. But no, I think you brought up a good point as well. So
Yeah, that's true, actually. I guess, I never thought of it that way, but that's definitely true. You have to do your work to be able to, because you don't want to feel like it's a burden down the line.
yes, exactly.
Yeah.
What would you consider like a win in the next 3 to 5 years? Like, what does a win look like to you?
A win. I mean, I want to see us be like incredibly well known. I want to see us doing like integrations with the big guys like Clio. I want to see us doing our own I want to see us doing our own tech shows, our own events. I think that's where I see things going.
What keeps you going? Like, what's your like why?
My why? Well, okay, so for me personally, it's two things. Like I have intrinsic motivation and I'm motivated by my parents. So I think like a lot of Tamil people probably can relate to this. Just seeing like, my parents struggle and create a life for themselves. And I feel like I don't even know the whole story. Like the things that happen in Sri Lanka, I really only know like a fraction of it. And so like sometimes on the weekend, I get my parents to talk about it. And I'm honestly completely shocked by the things that they had to kind of witness and see. And I'm the youngest of four, so like money has been tight in our family growing up, and like I'm inspired by my parents, but I also want them to retire, and I'm hoping that I can do that for them. Just like the yeah, so I'm inspired by that. I'm motivated by that. Another thing is I feel like right now it's just really exciting to be able to grow your own company, to kind of challenge yourself. And I don't know, I have this deep like intrinsic motivation. Like I want to see myself make it. And I'm just motivated by that. It's not even money. I just want to see it grow and happen.
Well, I guess money is an indicator of progress or success, even though you're not chasing it. It kind of does tell
Yeah.
you if you did well or not, in a
That's
way.
true. I
Yeah.
mean, for like the reason why I'm saying that is because right now I'm not getting paid and I'm
Mhm.
not taking a pay. We're just investing it right back into the company. And so like um I'm not really thinking about money. Like for me, it's more about like growth.
Makes sense. And are any of your siblings also kind of in the startup space, or like, are they just doing completely different things than you?
No, they're all doing completely different things. So my oldest sister is a social worker. My second oldest sister is a nurse, and my brother's an accountant.
Got it.
Yeah.
So you're kind of like the wild child.
Yeah, and kind of like the wild child. But it helps to be the youngest because they're all doing that for my
Yes.
parents so that I had some more time to kind of like ease them into this.
No, for sure, definitely. If anything, they're probably like inspired and they're probably curious, especially as you kind of grow and hopefully hit the goals you're talking about. What's a failure that you've kind of, I'm a big fan of like learning from failure, and I probably don't like to call it failure, but
Mhm.
what is a failure that you kind of learned from in the last little while?
Um, like in business or in general?
It could be business, it could be personal, whatever you think.
Failure. I mean, okay, so I guess the thing about doing a startup is like different from working a 9 to 5 because when you work a 9 to 5 that you're making money every single day. But if you kind of don't do work or you just kind of procrastinate, you don't do anything in the startup world, you're kind of screwing yourself because it's like a write off. And so I guess throughout the pandemic, there's been a period of time where I've been like just unmotivated, and it's been hard to kind of get up and do work and put my head down and just go through it. And so I consider that a failure because I feel like it was just a waste of time. And right now, I look at it so differently. Like maybe this is a problem, but I kind of find it hard to even like kind of relax or like do things that are a waste of time, because I feel like, oh, I'm always thinking about it in the back of my head, like, oh, I could be working on the company, or could be learning, or I could be doing this. But I think like the biggest thing is just not like the failure was like just falling into a slump and not really pulling myself out of it.
Hmm. How did you end up eventually pulling yourself out of that slump?
I mean, at some point you just have to, right? Like, I just, I feel like it's a cycle. Like when you don't do work, or not even work, but when you just are not like challenging yourself, you feel bad. And then like that also just makes you feel bad and like continue to not challenge yourself and just kind of like procrastinate. And it's like a cycle. So I think one day I'm just like, okay, you got to wake up, like snap out of it. And I don't know, I just did it. I started listening to, I think something that really helped me, and it's really easy, like well known, but just going to bed early, not looking at like my phone before I go to bed, and waking up early. Like waking up, I'm starting to do this thing where I wake up at 5 a.m. and that has been really like life changing for me so far. It's only been like 2 weeks, so far.
It's amazing. That's something I only recently learned as well. Because I was going to ask you about burnout as well, where part of, like you said, when you're doing a startup and you're wasting time, you're not making progress,
Mhm.
versus like, you could work at a company and regardless if you're making progress or not, you're making money.
Yeah.
How do you avoid, or how did you avoid burnout? Because, and like, especially during COVID, where usually you have those breaks in like the form of socialization or like fun things to do, but we don't really have that right now. So like, how do you avoid burnout, running a startup during this time?
Yeah, I mean, for me, like I have a dog. I mean, you follow me on Instagram, so you probably
Mhm.
see me post about my dog all the time. So whenever I want to take a break from work, I just go upstairs and play with my dog.
Mm.
But another thing is like it's really things that everybody knows, but it's just hard to do. Like going for a walk every day, talking, like still socializing just virtually if you can. What I do is usually when I walk Matcha, my dog, I call someone on the phone at the same time. So I'm getting that social interaction, I'm getting my fresh air. And then really just like trying to take care of myself. Like I think that the whole like startup culture is a lot of people think that entrepreneurs don't sleep, but I do sleep. I sleep every day for 8 hours. And I don't believe in not sleeping either. So it's just about like taking care of yourself and trying to do things like drink water and socialize and exercise.
No, it's great. Like you said, those things are simple, but the simplest things are like really hard to execute. And I think consistency is the thing. I've seen so many people, like, especially when you look at health, work out hard for like a month and then they never work out again.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like I'm trying to like think of things, like all the things you described. It took me a while to kind of get to. Like now I walk every day while I listen to a podcast. Um, then I try to sleep, but I definitely notice the days I don't sleep well, I'm not like productive, or I'm not like, I don't know if happy is the word, or like I'm way more grouchier, like in general. Like I can't tolerate if like my browser loads too slow, or like, I have a bad phone call. I don't tolerate things well. So you're so right about
Yeah.
sleep. Sleep gives you that foundation to kind of tolerate bad
You
things.
gotta sleep. Yeah. Do you have a smartwatch, by the way?
I do actually. I have like a Fitbit, and
Okay, nice.
I keep it simple. Like I like the Fitbit because I just check um, my sleep and my steps, and I cut it connected to like my Renfo scale. So those are the
Yeah.
three things I care about. So it's actually cool. Like over the last 2 months, I've noticed that I think I lost like 8 pounds just by walking, doing
Oh,
intermittent
wow.
fasting,
Yeah.
drinking water, and not eating
Yeah.
like crap later in the day. Like I stopped eating at 7,
Yeah.
and
Oh,
just
wow.
by doing that, like I haven't like worked out again because the gym's closed, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So have you noticed on your smartwatch, like, does it tell you how many hours of deep sleep you're getting?
Yes, I like that feature.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
So that really helps because I think you're supposed to get like 2 to 3 hours of deep sleep. A lot of people don't get that.
Are you serious?
Yeah,
Nice.
3 hours is like I think 2.5 hours is like the golden point. but anything less than that, you're probably sleep deprived.
Damn it, I thought I was doing okay. So wait, you check your watch and you have 2 hours of consistent deep sleep every night?
Yeah, but the thing is for me, like I usually don't have problems sleeping. So I'm really lucky. So usually I get like 3 hours of deep sleep.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Because like my goal was to get to 8 hours, but I think like I gotta be realistic, so I'm aiming for 7. But
Yeah.
I get about 6.5, 6 hours. And I think sleep quality, I think, comes with sleep length. So I think if I sleep in bed for 8 hours, I think I'll get 2 hours because I get like 1 hour and like 40 minutes with like
Oh,
six and a half
yeah.
hours of sleep. So it just means like I do get good sleep when I sleep, but I just don't sleep
Mm-hmm.
long enough. So damn
Mm-hmm.
it. I did not know that it's 3 hours. Okay, good to know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so like we kind of touched on this, but what do you like to do for fun outside of like work? And I guess this is kind of in the non-COVID world. Like hopefully when we start going back to normal, what did you like
Mm-hmm.
to do for fun?
For fun, I really like to like go to downtown Toronto and go to like different food shops. So like I basically when I was in downtown all the time, I would basically go to all these tea shops. I really like Japanese cuisine. So like sushi, tea shops, basically different food areas. I like to explore food. And then other than that, just like going outdoors, like basically what you can do right now is basically just go outside. So we've been hiking or like going to the park, going to the lake. Um, yeah, I mean, I enjoy going outside. I feel like it's something that just makes you kind of instantly happy. Other than that, I like to, in my spare time, kind of like learn about other things I could do on the side, like drop shipping or starting my own side hustle. Um, I I like just like kind of learning about that. I don't want to, spread myself too thin, but I would be excited to try like another side hustle at the same time. And then just really just spending time with my parents and my dog. Something like, with like your parents, like one day you just kind of look at them and they look old and it
Mhm.
doesn't really hit you until like that point. And so I've kind of hit that point and I feel sad when I see that they look old. So I try and spend as much time with them as I can.
No, pre-COVID, there was like an article I read called The Tail's End, and it talks about this where mathematically, people who've listened to the podcast regularly, I've mentioned this so many times, but it's really impacted me, that article where it talks about after the age of 25 or 30, you would have seen your parents like for like 90% of your life, which is like, it really hit me. I was like, how is this possible? But it broke it down and said like most people see their parents, after they leave like their home once every like 3 to 4 months. And I was like,
Yeah.
that's crazy. Like I'm gonna do it once a week. And just by doing that, I can kind of change the equation of like how often I spend time with them. And I feel like with most immigrant parents and in the Tamil community, um, especially with like my household where it was like male centric in terms of like there's like 3 boys and a girl. Feelings weren't really talked about. Like feel like love was shown by action. So
Yeah.
my mom or dad would do things for us as their way of like showing love versus like actually talking about things. But now, like when I talk to my parents, it's like even though we don't talk about much, it's like very not superficial, but like not very deep. It's like I think
Hmm.
they enjoy that. So I'm like, oh, I'm gonna just continue doing this, and hopefully they, um, we have this connection. So that's kind of like my goal. Like I don't get to have these conversations that you're having with your parents. Whenever I ask my parents, they just don't like talking about it. So I don't get
Yeah.
anything out of them. So
Yeah. But they probably enjoy just like having you around, like just physically present.
yes. And now with
Yeah.
like my like kids, like like they like that too. So
Yeah.
I feel like especially with my dad, because he was super strict with like all the kids, especially me as the oldest. I feel like watching him with the grandkids is like him getting a chance to redo being like the nice fun dad that he didn't get
Oh
a
my God.
chance
I
to
see
do with
that
me.
all the time with Tamil parents.
Yeah. No, I think it's basically like, especially with dads, they weren't taught how to be in touch with their feelings. Like it was very much like be like
Hmm.
a certain like way, this is what a man's supposed to be,
Mm.
versus like me being here and being exposed to different ideas and people, I know what a man is to be different. But I feel like he's starting to learn that, but through the kids. So it's kind of a chance to kind of redo fatherhood, kind of like
Yeah.
no strings attached. So it's pretty cool to kind of see.
Yeah. Yeah.
um What is an insecurity that you have?
Something that I have, I mean, I guess like in the company or even like in general, I mean, I'm okay in the company. I'm like someone who just graduated school and I'm trying to sell to lawyers who are very like established. And I feel like their community who has a high self-esteem. And so sometimes I feel like, oh my God, they're going to not want to talk to me because I look like in their eyes, I look like a kid. And so like, that's something I am insecure about.
Mm.
And I guess like even just like imposter syndrome, you know, like I really don't like, I'm not an expert by any means. So I'm really like learning every day, like just watching YouTube videos. A lot of the stuff I learn is honestly from YouTube. So I guess one of my insecurities is just being like really new to the game and like wondering if people will like see through that.
Mm. Do you have friends that are like you in the sense that you seem like you really like to learn, like when you're not doing an already demanding job and starting a company and running it, you're like learning how to improve yourself or learning like skills.
Mm-hmm.
Because I asked that question because birds of a flock usually, or I don't, I always mess up things, but people that, you know, are like this, they typically have people that are the similar and like you can kind of feed off that energy. Do you have that, or like, I guess it's not really something like you look to people like Gary Vee, for example, to give you that energy to like
Yeah.
do those things?
I mean, like, no, not really in like my Um, well, okay, so my sister's boyfriend is like that. And so we feed off of each other a lot. And I guess I'm a part of two startup accelerator centers. So you get to meet a lot of people through that. But something recent that's been happening is just like meeting like Tamil people in the community, like literally through Clubhouse or just through LinkedIn. I find that, I mean, I was on Clubhouse for 2 days and um, I found that there's like an overwhelming support just from like the Tamil community on Clubhouse, which was crazy. And on those 2 days, I got hooked up with free UX UI designers, and I got invited to a podcast, and I just like got connected to so many people, and yeah, so I guess it's just from like I've been meeting a lot of people online, I guess, through that. And just in my personal network, honestly, not so much except for my sister's boyfriend. But I guess just always like podcasts is like another source too. And like, yeah, listening to people like Gary Vee as well. What about
Right.
you? Do you have that?
Um, I do have friends that do that actually. Like they're like in different circles, but like they're like one guy's like kind of in the crypto world, another guy's an actor, but like we're all like very passionate about like kind of what we do.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the only thing with kind of COVID and like personalities like ourselves, I'm pretty good at kind of keeping in touch, but like sometimes with like friends, especially like the way we're built, we're so engrossed in kind of the stuff we're doing. We sometimes don't
Yeah.
like stay connected, but like when we are connected, it's like three minds in one. Like it's like I love hanging out with them. Um, but yeah, like for me, I'm just like I was gonna ask you like a question leading up to that, which was, are you introverted or extroverted, would you say?
Um, I don't know. I feel like, okay, so I think I read a definition somewhere online where you're extroverted if you feel really energized after you talk to people. And I
Mm.
definitely feel that. So I think I'm more on the extroverted scale because I actually do really enjoy that. And I do feel super energized and I like after hanging out with people, I'm not tired.
Mm.
Um, but I feel like I have moments where I can be introverted if I want to. And it's really weird because I don't think I am shy, but then there are moments where I do feel like I have strong social anxiety. Like sometimes I will feel like my heart race and things like that for like a super normal interaction. Um, so I don't know. I think I'm mostly extroverted, but I have my moments of feeling introverted as well.
I only ask because I think I'm the term it ambivert, where I do love talking to people, but not everybody. Like there's a select kind of group of type of people that I like talking to, and a certain type of conversation I like having. Where I can go to a party, I used to be that guy that used to go to like different parties, but like I didn't like engaging in superficial discussion. Like I was the guy that would
Mhm.
go to a party and be talking to like one or two people in a corner about like deep stuff, like not just like how I was going, like or drinking, but like,
Yeah.
like why did you do that? Like, what kind of childhood trauma did you have? Like really, I'd be like that weird guy that kind of gets into deep talk. So, um, the reason I mentioned that because you asked like, do I have that is I love when I talk to certain kinds of people that feed that part of me, but I'm
Yeah.
okay. But I'm also okay being by myself, um, kind of in my own thoughts because rather than being around people that kind of will drag me down or like they don't have the same energy or like they question why you're doing things. So
Yeah.
I guess that's kind of my long answer to that is I'm just like selective about who I'm around because it's like I'm already doing just like you're doing a hard thing in building a company. I'm doing a hard thing by doing that too. I don't want to hear anything negative. It's not like I want to put myself in a bubble, but I don't want to tarnish. Like it's so hard to build momentum and it's really
Mhm.
easy for people to take it away from you. So I'm very
Yeah.
protective of like people robbing me of my momentum. So I'm really good at that where like it kind of comes off as, I can be an asshole at times. I'm not that I'm an asshole. I think if you talk to me, you know that I'm not, but I'm
Yeah.
just like if people just disrespect like me or like my like what I'm doing, I just like I don't have time for that. I'm just looking for
Yeah.
people that are like positive and like, looking to help and collaborate versus kind of, drag you down. So
I like that. I think it's really important to have those boundaries. It
yeah,
sounds like you just have like really firm boundaries.
I do. And some people might have a problem with that, but I'm okay with that. Like, I don't, my thing is, I don't care to be universally liked because I think nobody is. I think you could
Yeah.
be like, the most perfect person, and there's going to be some critic out there that's like thinking you're fake and all that. So I'm like, oh, I'm going to be as real as I want to be. But, my goal is to like, be like nice and supportive. Like, there's a lot of people that reach out to me, but you can kind of tell the difference between people that reach out to you and like there's not going to be no kind of mutual give and take. There's like just
Yeah.
like taking or like they're just expecting you to do like the work versus like some people like I think that's how we connected. There's like you can kind of see in their interaction it's like a mutual kind of give and take. So
Mhm.
it's just kind of those are like kind of all the things that I kind of do to protect myself, my energy, like so yeah.
Yeah, no, that's important because then you filter out only the people that like vibe with you and respect your values, and that's really awesome because then you only have quality people around you.
Yeah, and it's not like I want people that don't share views that are not like similar to mine. Like I have good friends where we disagree about things, but I think our core values are the same. It's like, be honest, do hard work, help out people. But yeah,
Hmm.
you might think that, I don't know, taxing the wealthy people isn't a good idea, but I think it's a good idea. That's cool if we
Yeah.
disagree. That's like a conversation to have, but everything else we agree on. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
You kind of already talked about this, but how has the Toronto Tamil community impacted you on like a personal and professional level?
Um, it's been really cool because so growing up, I actually didn't really interact with a lot of Tamil people because we grew up in, well, I lived in Mississauga until I was like 7. And then after that, I lived in Oakville. And growing up in like high school, like I was literally the only Tamil person in my entire school. And then, but there was like some brown people. There was probably like a handful, like 14 kids. So, yeah, I haven't really like interacted with a lot of Tamil people since like university. And even in university, um, at Waterloo, there are a lot of Tamil people, but I guess I never really joined that group. And so I really started just kind of joining it now, but just kind of like on an online level and meeting people like you, like through LinkedIn or just through Clubhouse. And I find that there's like an overwhelming like level of support. Like me just like not even really trying on Clubhouse, I got so much help and was offered help without even asking. And I find that's really, really nice because Tamil people, like we all have kind of a shared experience, especially if, like you're first generation Canadian, and we can all relate to that. And I think there's this sense of like really just wanting to help one another. And that's something I really, really appreciate and I'm grateful for. So yeah, I mean, like even when talking to Tamil lawyers, they're like usually a lot more receptive than other groups of people. So yeah, it's been a really good experience. Like COVID initially was isolating, and then I kind of found ways to talk to more people, and I found that the Tamil community has been like incredibly helpful.
Who's somebody from the global Tamil community? It could be anybody, and somebody that isn't Tamil from like the global community that you admire and why.
Okay, so someone from the global Tamil community. Um, I think that like Mindy Kaling is someone that I really, really admire, and I just think she's like super funny, and it's hard to find like female leads who are brown, and I think I got a lot of my sense of humor from her actually. And now like Maitri, from Never Have I Ever, she's really cool. She seems really cool. I like that. Like I like seeing like more Tamil women in like leadership roles or more visible positions. Um, Outside of the Tamil community, I I mean, I like Gary V, but I like the messages that he sends. Like he is someone who talks about like optimism, and just like he said something like, you're winning if you choose to focus on the good. And I think that that's something that's really helped me in the like going through COVID. Same with oh no, someone that I really look up to is also Darren Hardy. So
Is that?
he
Oh,
has a podcast. He also has a book called like Compound Interest. He's kind of like Gary Vee. He's a really like well-known entrepreneur that is also like a thought leader in entrepreneurship. Um, and so he he has this podcast, and he said something like, the people who win are one, they all have two things in common, because he's interviewed a bunch of really successful people, and he said one, they're lifelong learners, and two, they have like a detailed plan on how to achieve their goals. So that's been something that I haven't really forgotten throughout COVID. So those are people that I kind of I guess admire outside of the Tamil community.
cool. Yeah, it's a good one to know. What's a piece of advice that you would give to your fellow aspiring Tamil creators?
I guess like just to have like an overwhelming belief in yourself, because I think that if you try and, build a company or build something, do something outside of the regular, right? A lot of people have this notion that, like they can't wait until Friday, or you can't always have whatever you want. And I agree with that. Everything is an opportunity cost, right? But I believe that you can create the life that you want. Like it's really just up to you. And I think that there's like nothing that should hold you back from, even though there's a bunch of people who will tell you like, oh, like you can't do this, and there will be that, especially in the beginning, because you have to prove yourself, right? And I think you just have to be able to tune out the noise and just have like a belief, like an unwavering belief in yourself. And that's really hard, but if you like, that's really all you have in the beginning is believing in yourself, and you need that.
You just listening to you talk throughout this whole podcast, you kind of give off now like a mini Gary V vibe. Like you're so like the way you're speaking and like the confidence you're speaking. Uh, there's definitely like you. Most people listen to things and they don't kind of internalize it and take action, but just by the way you're speaking, I'm like, wow, like you're so confident, which is really cool to see. Uh,
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know. It's just like, I think it's so crazy that there's this narrative that, like, like it's so, like, people put you down for having big dreams. And I just think that's crazy, because it's just like, I don't know, just go for it. Um, it's just important that you believe in yourself, because if you don't believe in yourself, who will?
it's really interesting you say that because whenever I do stuff, like say when I launch the podcast, it's surprising how many people that don't know me as well, like they're like not in my like direct circle of friends, like they're just kind of outside of that, how like they would reach out to me and kind of, give me feedback or like share it with their friends. Not saying like, friends and family don't do that, but it's like so interesting kind of see that there are these weak, what they call weak tie relationships that kind of really go out of their way to kind of help you. I had a point with that. You were saying something, but I don't know. I just like it was something you were saying that kind of brought up that point. So yeah.
Yo, Ara, someone needs to interview you because you're the OG Tamil creator. You've created a bunch of stuff, right? So I think you need to be on your own podcast with
Maybe I'll
someone else on the other end.
or maybe I'll do a special, like maybe after doing this interview, you gave such great answers. I'm gonna let you maybe in the future interview me as a special guest host.
Yeah. No, actually, yeah.
I think we kind of answered kind of some of the more serious questions. So now we'll kind of get into a fun game that I like to call Creator Confessions. And
Okay.
basically, I'm going to say like a series of things, and you're just going to tell me the first thing that kind of pops into mind.
Okay.
Favorite Tamil food?
Food? Kotoroti.
Something that scares you.
Um, something that scares me. The Zodiac.
The
Because we
Zodiac?
don't know if he's still alive.
Oh, the Zodiac Killer.
Yeah, the Zodiac Killer.
Okay,
Yeah,
got it.
yeah.
Favorite show you're watching?
Um, I've just been watching The Office on replay. I haven't really expanded my horizons there.
A place you're itching to travel to after the pandemic is over.
Bali.
Bali. Why Bali?
I don't know. It's just like, I haven't even been to that many places. It just seems like a really cool, like, it's been like on your Microsoft desktop, like
Yeah,
I
yeah.
always see it. It's always Bali. So, yeah, I just feel like it's a cool place.
I'm very surprised you didn't say Japan, given your love of Japanese food and
Oh my God. Yeah, Japan. I don't know why I didn't think of that. Yeah, Japan.
because you said your dog's name was Matcha, right?
Yeah,
Okay,
after the green tea.
that's why I was like, yeah, that's why I was like, I'm surprised you didn't say Japan.
Yeah.
Fellow Tamil creator, you want to give a shout out to?
The social butterfly.
Okay, and why her?
She's just like so genuine and down to earth. Like she doesn't seem to have like I don't know, she just seems like a normal person but she's like really down to earth and I really appreciate that.
Favorite childhood memory?
Favorite childhood memory. Um I think okay, so my mom is a twin and so
She is?
yeah.
Wow,
But
so good.
it's not identical though. So
Okay.
it's not as fun, but she is a twin. And
That's
so her twin is in Switzerland. And I think that my favorite memory was I hadn't seen her for a really long time. Like literally the first time or the second time I saw her was when I was 14. And the first time I saw her was when I was 3. And she is just like she's just like a really caring person. Like honestly, just like seeing her that time like just brought me to tears because like I feel like it's hard to like a lot of people have aunts and uncles that they're not close to, and she's someone who has always like been there for me, like even though there's like a language barrier. Like I don't know how to talk perfect Tamil. I can try my best, but I'm really not that great at it. And even though there's a language barrier, like you can feel a love like overseas, and she really genuinely cares about me. And I think it was just like an amazing memory to just see her again for the first time after so long.
Are you a crier?
Yeah.
So so when you watch movies, do you like cry by yourself?
Yeah, I do.
I do as well.
There's no shame in it,
There's no shame.
especially, yeah, except if your siblings are around.
Oh yeah, like I watched Gladiator and like the end of Gladiator. Like I know when there's movies that I know they're gonna be sad, I'd like wait till like my wife goes to sleep, or like if I'm with friends, like I wait till nobody's around, and I'll go
Yeah.
watch that movie, and I will cry a little bit very quietly, and then nobody knows. Um, how about pet peeve?
Pet peeve. Okay. What is a pet peeve? Um, hmm. COVID, pet peeve. I mean, okay, I guess for me, whenever I'm in meetings and stuff, my dog Matcha, like she will just like scratch on the door. She'll start barking. She'll be like super loud. And for a while, I didn't have a doorknob, like it just fell out. So it was like a doggy door, like she just went in and out. So basically just like she's been super clingy ever since COVID. So just kind of like having my like her being very needy when I'm busy.
So literally, you gave me a pet peeve. That's so funny. Like, um, person or celebrity that you look up to.
Um, hmm. I mean, I already told you this, but Mindy Kaling, I think she's like super, super funny. Um, Another celebrity. Oh, something random is, do you know Kevin G from Mean Girls?
Kevin G. Who's that?
Remember the mathlete?
The brown guy?
Yeah, the brown guy.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he's actually Tamil.
I know. That's why I
Oh,
was like,
you
wait.
knew that?
I knew that. Yes,
Oh, okay. I just learned that.
because my
Yeah, that was
friend,
just.
because my best friend's an actor, and like we kind of like whenever we see someone that looks Tamil or brown, like he'll tell me, "Oh yeah, this guy's like Indian Tamil." Like we know every single like whether he has a big role or a small role or like
Oh, really?
yeah.
Oh, okay. I actually just learned that. So never mind.
No,
But
no,
yeah.
it's not common knowledge. Like I only knew because of him. I only knew because
Yeah,
of him.
yeah, yeah.
Um, age you want to retire by.
Oh, that's it.
And wait, when I say retire, I want to caveat this because you might have a different definition. But
Mm-hmm.
I say retirement is not because when you stop working, but it's like when you are able to do what you want when you want. So it's a complete ownership of time.
Complete ownership of time.
That's my
I don't
definition.
know.
So
That's a difficult question because I need to see how this plays out. I feel like okay, so like 55 is like the standard, right? So I want to be before 55. Maybe like I don't know. Maybe ideally like 45. That's a really loose answer. Just because I have to give you an answer, I'll say 45. Yeah.
um, celebrity whose life you'd want to experience for one day.
Okay, that's really interesting. Who do I want to be for one day? I think that maybe like someone from. Do you watch 90 Day Fiance?
No. Actually, well, I saw one episode. I didn't want to admit it, but I saw one episode. So
Wait, from this season?
I don't know. Like I just like turned it on and I was like, oh, this is interesting. Like, what
Oh,
is this about? So
okay, okay. Well, I was thinking like maybe someone from like 90 Day Fiance, like you know Big Ed.
no.
Okay, that's another show I've been watching. I guess Big Ed. He's like famous, I guess, but he's famous from like reality TV. So
Mm.
I think it would be interesting to kind of experience that. Yeah, okay, yeah, I'll say Big Ed.
And why would you want to be in 90 Day? So 90 Day Fiance, I hope I got the concept because I watched it like once. Is it like you swap fiancés or like what is like I
No, no, no,
no
no.
no
No, it's basically no, I don't want to be in it. But basically the concept of the show is you are in a relationship with someone overseas and usually the people who like usually it's Americans. Yeah, this is an American show. So it's Americans who are dating people overseas, but then they decide to marry them and you have
okay.
to do the K1 visa and you only have 90 days. So typically it's my guilty pleasure show because you
So
know it
I'm kind
usually
of
it's like
I'm judging you and not judging you. I get it, but yeah.
I didn't want to admit that, but you got me. You drew it out of me.
That's actually gonna be one of my like next questions, which is like what's like a weird thing you do that nobody like really knows about?
A weird thing that I do. I mean, I really like I don't know if this is weird, but I really like crime movies and documentaries.
Yes.
So I've been watching those. So like the Zodiac was really interesting, but also really creeps me out. The Sons of Sam is something that I started watching. Did you watch The Serpent?
No, I heard it's really good, but I haven't watched it yet. No.
Yeah, it is really good. I watched that. I'll like follow cases like um I'll follow cases like from like I don't know if you heard an influencer called Alexis Sharkey.
No.
Okay, so I've been following her like I follow random cases for a really long period of time like even years after like I'll look it up on like a weekly basis.
And you're saying it's weird, but it's actually talking about side hustles like crime. like crime podcasts, crime related content is super popular. Like it has like a popular niche and it's super profitable. So crime podcasts are like the number one like genre of podcast, I think, other than like erotica like podcasts or whatever, or like erotica content.
Yeah.
And there's like this, I think, New York officer, and it's like this, his side hustle is he makes about $1 million a year doing crime tours, taking people around New York City to like where the mafia kind of had hits, or like where they ate. Like he's like, I'm a cop, I actually know like the real spots, and he would charge people like $100
Oh
or
my
like 150
gosh.
bucks like for a tour, and he got like, I think the math was like 80 80 or 800 people a month. So like you do the
Yeah.
math, it's like $1 million a year doing this, which
Oh
is
wow.
crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy. You're right. Yeah, on Spotify, all of the top ones are like crime.
Yes, crime.
Yeah.
And yeah, like 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 romance is like the second one, but like I was
Hmm.
very surprised to hear about the the crime. You're
Yeah.
you were talking about start like side hustles. I think the opposite side hustle I want to do is something. Sorry, a side hustle I want to do is the opposite of what I do now, which is like completely like software and like, it's like, digital. I feel like
Hmm.
I'd want to do like what they call like a sweaty startup, where like you're actually out there doing stuff, like whether you're doing like a tour or like something like, running like a, like a pool maintenance business or something. Like I'm just reading about like all these like businesses and like how well they do. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
like my next like life of like doing this, maybe I'll do something like that so I can stay in shape, make some money, meet people. So
I
yeah.
mean, you're already losing 8 pounds just walking, so that's pretty good.
And eating well, but yes.
Yeah.
What's a PSA you want to leave our audience with?
Okay. A PSA I want to leave with your audience is that you don't need to trade hours of your life for money. I think that, whatever your past has been is, already done, but the future is like a blanket of snow. It's completely untouched and you can rewrite it in any way that you like. So I think that you just need to have an overwhelming belief that you can write it in any way that you like.
And that, folks, was Gary V in Jenushka's voice. That was a great message. Thank you so much. And yeah, that's kind of the end of the podcast. Thank you so much for kind of jumping on. I think you're like a great guest. Like I said, a lot of your answers are like amazing. I think for those of you listening who you're either entrepreneurs or maybe you're like a female perspective founder of a tech company, Janushka's story is amazing. She's a really, as you can kind of hear, knowledgeable, inspiring person. So the perfect kind of guest for this kind of podcast. So if people love what they heard and they want to connect with you, just like you connected with like people as well, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Connect with me on LinkedIn. I think that's the best way to get a hold of me. Yeah, I'm always responsive on LinkedIn.
It's true, guys. Perfect. Well, final message for the audience. If you're listening to this podcast, please, please, please give it a 5 out of 5. It really helps increase your visibility on Spotify or whatever platform you're listening to. So whether that's Spotify, Apple, or Google podcasts. And if you can comment, share, and like our stuff on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter, that would be great. And if you have any feedback or ideas on future guests or topics, reach out to me at hello@thetalmudcreator.com. And for those of you on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please make sure to hit the follow. It really helps me as well. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much, and on to the next one.